Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining my recital, whether here in person or online. I just have a couple of housekeeping things to note. If you have not signed in with Amber, please do that right now. If you are joining us in person, please maintain the social distancing seating that we have assigned and wear your masks throughout the entire performance. Right now, I'd like to ask you to please silence any gadgets that may beep, talk, or make any noise during the performance. That would be great. And for those of you who are attending in person, the program and the program notes for tonight's concert can be found via the QR code that you should have scanned on the way in the doors. So please ask Sarah if you are not sure where to find that. For those of you who are joining us online, I'm really glad that you're able to watch safely from home. And I really look forward to the day when we can all be in one place together to enjoy a concert. The program and notes for you will be available as a link in the comments in the Facebook video. So tonight would not have happened without the support and help of a lot of people. We have Darren Snyder and Kim, Jessica Raposo, Nathan Froby, and Sarah Toshlog from the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Amber Hall, John Dalton, and the External Affairs team, as well as Ryan Harris and WCTV, Alvin Ferguson and IT, and the IUE East Facilities crew. Thank you so much for helping us make this happen. So the concept for tonight's recital, Off the Beaten Path, came to me in the later end of 2019. I was looking at my repertoire list and I started to wonder why I had never played any pieces written by women or very little by people of non-European heritage. So I vowed to get more creative with my programming with my next recital. Now, my first love will always be Bach. But I wanted to step out of the big B's in the piano repertoire, Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms. And it turns out the pandemic provided plenty of time for me to research and look for unknown repertoire. So I actually found so much more than I was expecting. And I am so pleased to present tonight's recital. And I hope that I can present more recitals with these works that are off the beaten path. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy. So the piece that I just played was a prelude for piano by Julia Perry. And this intriguing work is the only work for piano that we still have available from Perry. She died quite young at the age of 55, and it's such a shame that we only have a few of her compositions available to us now. It's my hope that her other works for piano can be released in the future. There are notes that she did write other piano compositions, and this includes a piano concerto as well as two other works called Suite of Shoes and Pearls on Silk. So the next set of pieces that I'll play tonight are by the composer Fanny Hensel Mendelssohn. So we all know of Felix Mendelssohn. His works are still universally being played to this day and beloved for there's a lot that is beloved. However, he always viewed his older sister Fanny as the better of the two, and she was his lifelong advisor and confidant for his compositions. Fanny Mendelssohn is often referred to in music history textbooks in relation to her brother, but then I realized I don't know a single piece written by her. So I know of her, but I didn't actually know her. Many women in our time and over the entire history, I guess, face the question of how to balance children and career. But for Fanny, she wasn't even allowed to ponder this, as it was unheard of for a woman in her social standing at the time to pursue a career. So she seemed to accept this, and she tended to her family after marriage, but she never stopped composing, and right before her death, she had some of her pieces published, which she was absolutely delighted with. Fanny described herself as a dilettante composer, but no dilettante performer could attempt her works. They require a high level of technical prowess and musicality, and to be honest, as a performer, her works are slightly daunting. But it is my absolute delight to introduce you to three of works by Fanny Mendelssohn. So, let me just catch my breath. Okay, on to the next pieces. So I am so happy to present these next two pieces by Florence Price. She made history in 1933 as the first African American woman to have a piece premiered by a major American symphony, the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And she also mentored the next generation of African American women composers and inspired people like Julia Perry to continue. She wrote prolifically throughout her life, and she has a very large opus of works, but she was largely forgotten after her death. Thankfully, in 2009, an abandoned house in Chicago turned up with a large collection of her works, and they were previously unknown, most of them. So this sparked a new interest in her and her works. And these compositions are slowly being sorted out and published today. Last year, in the wake of the George Floyd protests, musicians started to discuss openly why there are just so few composers of color or women of color that we perform. And we've had a lot of interesting discussions along the way, and today I see the seeds of these discussions. I've seen more and more works by Price and other composers that were not heard before being programmed in the concerts happening in this past year. And it is my sincere hope that in the coming years, Florence Price and her music will be established as a household name in American music. So I hope you enjoy Clouds and To a Red Rose by Florence Price. remember I was sitting on my couch sometime last May when our IUE East faculty, Dr. Nathan Frobe, sent me a text message. And in that text message was a short 2-page piece. It was written for one of our colleagues, Peter Douglas, who was having nightly mini recitals from his living room. And we watched Peter give a beautiful premiere of the piece, which would later end up being the first out of the 5 nocturnes. And over the coming weeks, Nathan continued to send us more nocturnes as they were being created. It was a really special experience for me, witnessing the birth and creation of a set in real time. And the concise way that Nathan explored different concepts in each nocturne really had me hooked. Then Nathan sent us the 5th nocturne. And if you read his program notes, you'll notice that he writes it is quite different in nature to the other 4. In the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd last year, Nathan writes that in his program notes that Nocturne 5 was his way of processing and coping with the many layers of societal issues that were happening and being uncovered at that time. What really struck me was that although he described as feeling frustrated in processing the situation and the many issues that were happening at the time, he did something about it. And he composed. He made a point to raise a voice and really express his feelings through this composition. And there are just so many issues that we are faced with these days in our society. It's just overwhelming to think about them. Just in this past week alone, we witnessed 2 senseless mass shootings in Atlanta and Boulder, with a total of 18 innocent people just taken from us suddenly. We have become desensitized as a way of coping with these incidents. But as I was preparing this recital and preparing to play Nathan's nocturnes, I realized just how symbolically important it was that Nathan wrote Nocturne number 5. Things may be difficult to process, but we cannot and we should not stay silent about it. We need to do our part to speak up. Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those who are being crushed. So I'm very, very honored and very pleased to be able to give the world premiere of Nocturnes by our very own Dr. Nathan Frobe. I hope you enjoy. we come to the last two compositions in this recital, two Canadian composers, Court Stone and Oscar Morowitz. Most of you may know, but I grew up in Canada, so I was in Canada from age 6. These two composers may be familiar to Canadian pianists or other Canadian musicians, but they're rarely heard outside of Canada. So I'm really pleased that I can perform them here today from Richmond, Indiana. I was really happy to program these two composers today because of a couple reasons. One, they both have connections to my alma mater, the University of Toronto Faculty of Music. And two, these pieces for me both remind me of my hometown of Ottawa, Canada. The first song, Ottawa Valley Song, refers to the Ottawa Valley, which is where the city of Ottawa is, as well as Stone's hometown of Renfrew. Ottawa Valley Song is short, but it is absolutely beautiful. And I dedicate it to my friends and family back in Ottawa. I haven't seen you guys in more than a year, and I miss you. Hello if you're watching. And lastly, I have a funny and fond memory of Oscar Morowitz's Scherzo. I learned this around age 15 or 16, and I played it for a local competition in Ottawa. And my teacher, Paulette Price, told me that after I had performed this on stage, a little old lady came up and tapped her on the shoulder. And she told my teacher, you know, when I was younger, I dated Oscar Morowitz, and he drives exactly like that scherzo. We have no idea if this story is true, but I really wouldn't be surprised if it's true. This scherzo is a real trip, and it must have been inspired by something. So I hope you enjoy the last two pieces of the recital, Ottawa Valley Song and the scherzo.